Hey guys, so 97% of us struggle with at least one of these five emotional wounds: abandonment, betrayal, humiliation, and rejection and injustice. Five. For the past 3 years, I've been helping people heal from these traumas, both live in Paris and on Zoom, using transformational breathwork. So let's explore this briefly as it connects to our next session coming up Monday, the 16th at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hopefully, you'll be able to join on Zoom. So, when two people in a relationship carry these wounds, could be at work, also could be anywhere. 97% of us carry those wounds. Communication becomes sometimes a little difficult, specifically when you know that only 7% of communication comes from spoken words, while the rest comes from the tone of my voice or my body language. So, this is even more challenging when both partners are dealing with their own unresolved traumas on top of everything else, as you can imagine. So, where do these wounds, those traumas, come from? Most often, they begin in childhood and shape how we see ourselves and relate to others as adults 20, 30, 40 years later. So the defenses we built as children to protect ourselves naturally can become the walls that trap us, keeping us from living authentically or building healthy relationships. Meaning the walls we built as kids to protect ourselves, they become the prison in which we live as adults. And those walls are thick most of the time. And I feel like specifically now in these awakening times, we can't afford to let these patterns hold us back from our potential if we really want to thrive. So healing these wounds involve three key steps. One, recognizing the wounds. Be aware of it. Two, understanding their roots. And three, important, actively working to break free from the patterns they create. So, how do these wounds show up in our life? Rejection, for example. Rejection often stems from feeling excluded or unwanted, such as being something as simple as being laughed at or ignored in class once. As an adult, 40 years later, this can lead to withdrawing from relationships or feeling deeply hurt when dismissed, for example, even if it wasn't intentional. The signs you're carrying this trauma: low self esteem, shyness, fear of judgment, self doubt, and a lot of difficulty trusting others. Abandonment. A fear of abandonment can come from something as small as your parents being late to pick you up from school once, believe it or not. Even a single experience of feeling left alone can leave a deep emotional imprint. And as an adult, this might show up as anxiety when your partner is late from work, for example, 20 minutes, or a tendency to depend too heavily on others for emotional support. What are the signs you're suffering from this trauma? Fear of being alone, very often, emotional dependency, difficulty making decisions independently. If you suffer from humiliation, humiliation is a big one. Humiliation might come from a teacher scolding you in front of the school, in front of the class once. Okay, and this can create a feeling of a lifelong fear of embarrassment or judgment, making it hard to take risks or try new things as an adult. What are the signs you're suffering from it? Briefly, of course, I'm brushing it, okay? Self sabotage, overgiving, discomfort with success, or fear of criticism, betrayal. Imagine a deeply personal moment like wetting the bed as a child. Okay, you pee in your bed, you're 6 or 7, being shared by your parents in front of others during the Sunday family lunch. That leads to profound sense of betrayal and loss of trust. Betrayal often shakes the foundation of relationships, leaving you feeling disoriented and constantly on edge, questioning everything. What are the signs you're suffering from that? Distrust, perfectionism, hypervigilance, and difficulty relying on others. Injustice. Injustice can come from feeling undervalued or overlooked. Okay, once. It doesn't have to be like on a regular basis. Like a sibling getting praised for something you worked hard on. For example, your older brother or your older sister, she got like two ice cream balls and you got only one. And this may stem a trauma of injustice for the rest of your life. Like the example I was taking also in regards to the abandonment. Same thing. Your parents are once late to pick you up in school, and you carry this feeling, this feeling that turns into a trauma of abandonment for the rest of your life. Your schoolmate, his parents were late every day to picking up at school. Maybe he's not going to carry any trauma for the rest of his life. So there's no right or wrong way to raise a child. We all do, and parents most likely do the best they can all the time. So we don't know what's going to leave an imprint and what's not going to leave an imprint. And of course, I'm talking when we're doing our best raising kids, obviously. There are like some very difficult situation and very difficult upbringing. But just to tell you, that's why 97% of people, 97% of us carry traumas. So, like I was saying, in regards to the injustice, this can literally create a need to overcompensate or prove your worth permanently, and it's exhausting, leading to a feeling of bitterness or resentment. So the signs you're suffering from it, usually those people are very rigid. They have very rigid standards for themselves and for others. Difficulty to express their emotions, and perfectionism is a big key for them. So what happens when wounds combine? Because this happens too when two or more wounds mix together. They can intensify emotional struggles and create even a deeper patterns, right? So rejection together with abandonment, you may crave relationship but expect rejection. That's a big one. Or even unintentionally create situations where rejection happens. Betrayal and injustice. Feeling betrayed and wronged can lead to perfectionism, again, comes back very often, controlling behaviors, and chronic resentment. And I'm brushing it up real fast, right? Rejection plus humiliation. Fear leads to a fear of judgment, and it can lead to overcompensating, withdrawing, and or avoiding risks. Abandonment plus humiliation. It's a fear of being left mixed with shame, and it can lead to low self worth and guilt. So, understanding these wounds is unfortunately not enough to heal. Okay? Recognizing their root is paramount, it's the first step. But true healing requires deeper work. These wounds are stored in the subconscious mind. It's really deep, where they shape your emotion, they shape your thoughts, they shape your behaviors, they shape you and your life. So techniques like breathwork, meditation, and somatic therapies, there's a lot of modalities out there, can help access these deeper layers to release, and we have to do it, stored traumas and rewire limiting beliefs. Very important. Breathwork. Let's talk about breathwork. Breathwork is a powerful tool for improving oxygen flow, reducing stress, calming the nervous system. We all know that. It's great for managing anxiety, promoting well being, and it's fabulous for your physiological system in general. However, traditional breathwork alone often focuses on only physiological benefits. To address deeper emotional wounds, it must be combined with trauma release work to really uncover and process the root cause stored in the subconscious mind, which is in the body. So, how do you start healing these wounds? Number one, like I said, identify your wounds. Reflect on the patterns in your life and where they come from. Usually, it's not rocket science. To reconnect with your inner child, very important. We do a lot of this in breathwork. Comfort your younger self through meditations or breathwork. Once again, calm your emotions. Number three, use mindfulness, yoga to regulate your nervous system. Four, rewrite limiting beliefs. Replace negative thoughts like I am not good enough with positive affirmations. And I know you've heard that 20 million times, but have you done it? Affirmations like I am worthy. Build healthy relationship. That's a big one. Practice openness, set boundaries, and rebuild trust. For inspiration, I recommend watching Brené Brown's The Call to Courage on Netflix. It's a must watch, honestly, for understanding vulnerability, and it's linked to true courage because we have a tendency to think that vulnerability is weakness, when the truth is like you cannot think of one act of courage that does not require the equivalent amount of vulnerability. So being vulnerable allows us to be courageous and to be creative also. So it's very important to really, really, really open up, let the guard down, trust again, being vulnerable, but do it, in a trustworthy environment with the right people. Obviously, it's very important. So if you can, and if you haven't yet, I recommend watching that documentary on Netflix. It's really good. Also, of course, seek help. All right, because doing that all by yourself sometimes is not easy. Working with a professional can provide guidance and support for deeper healing. Let go of resentment. That's the bomb. That's a big one. Forgive yourself and others to find peace and freedom. Your soul deserves peace. Resentment only weights you down. Your soul deserves to be free. And as you know, holding resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other one to get sick, right? It doesn't work this way. Signs of healing, or that you are on the way to healing, what are they? All right. One, you feel calmer and less reactive to triggers. People push your buttons, but it's not responding. That's a good sign. Your relationships become more balanced and more fulfilling, and you're able to have a longer relationship and healthier relationship with people. You stop needing external approval and trust yourself more. You feel more joy, more freedom, and connection to your true self. So, honestly, I have great compassion for these traumas you experience because I've experienced them myself, obviously. And I know they are massive. I know they are multidimensional. And it's a big deal. They really depleted my life and cost me decades of happiness, honestly. If you identify with one or more of these traumas, know that one, it's not your fault. You're not responsible for that. Two, your parents most likely did the best they could with what they knew. back then to raise you. And also know that healing is possible. It's absolutely doable. I made it myself, and so can you. I'm happy to help. I want to say you're not crazy if sometimes you are hypersensitive, if sometimes you are overreactive, and you have every right, okay, to feel wronged or to feel hurt. Trauma survivors often feel the pull to avoid their trauma and just move on. And it's understandable, okay? We want to move on, we want to move forward. But when the dust settles, you may realize you've simply buried your feelings and brushed aside your pain. If every reminder becomes a trigger, okay, it's time to seek help and process the trauma. Maybe the time has come to gain mastery over your trauma so they no longer control your life. Addressing them once and for all is a key to thriving, and it takes a little bit of time. My parents divorced when I was 2, and I suffered from abandonment and betrayal because I thought my dad had betrayed, my mom, and therefore betrayed me. So I know what I'm talking about, and I saw them together for the first time. I was 33. We had dinner, I remember, in Paris. It happened only once. That was very healing. So I know where you come from, and I'm working on those traumas. I've been doing that for 3 years, and it's really been a passion of mine. So join me on Monday if you are free, December the 16th at 6 p.m. for a transformational breathwork session. It's donation based, so don't sweat it. Just come, join us, and it's going to be an interesting session. Thank you for watching.